Yes.
I regret to inform you that Dryden Voss is dead. Beckett took it, slaughtered the others. I alone survived.
One man couldn't have done this alone.
Wait a minute! Who are you?
Okay, so this week we got the trailer for Maul Shadow Lord, and really I think that it looks fine. Okay, so being honest here, I don't really feel much hype for Maul Shadow Lord, and really even seeing the trailer isn't enough to actually have changed anything about that. The trailer does look good, and I'm sure the show will be perfectly fine. But really, even back when this show was first announced, I didn't feel much hype or excitement for the series.
We don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care.
And I think that there's really two main reasons for why I felt this way. And of course, the first is that it is Maul back again. Maul is a character who, for some reason, just cannot seem to stay dead. At this rate, he's died like 3 times, and it's getting kinda tiresome.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
I love the young people.
But what's even worse is that we've seen this character in so many different places all across Star Wars that seeing him get his own show here is, well, it feels a little redundant. Personally, I think that Maul as a character is someone who has served his purpose to the greater overall story of Star Wars, and so I'm not really sure why people feel the need to keep continuing to bring his character back. Although I do recognise that the same argument could have been made back when he was first reappearing in Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, which were 2 shows that did bring him back but also did give him some great story moments. And yes, if Maul hadn't been brought back in either one of those series, we probably wouldn't have gotten some of the best Star Wars moments out there. And so I can recognise that Maul is definitely a character who has a lot going on and who is definitely capable of giving us some great stories. But I am still someone who has been feeling a little Darth Mauled out recently. I'm still someone who really enjoys this character, but I'm also someone who isn't really sure how many more stories they want from this character. And really, the last nail that I want to put in this coffin is just due to the fact that I don't feel like the trailer for this series has done much to actually change my mind. And what I mean by that is just due to the fact that I don't think that this trailer justifies giving Maul even more stories. And that goes especially when there is such a wide variety of other characters out there who have the same potential to be as great as Maul, but also don't have as many stories previously. Sure, Darth Maul is a great character and he's given us some great stuff over the years. But he's died 1, 2, 3 times, and at this point I just think that maybe this character should stay dead. And yeah, that's the first reason for why I'm not feeling all too hyped for this series. And really, the second one's got to be the fact that the last Star Wars animated show we got wasn't the greatest. Honestly, Star Wars Tales of the Empire was kind of underwhelming. As a Star Wars show, it felt very predictable. It felt underwhelming and kinda lackluster, which are all things that you don't want from a great Star Wars series. But still, that feeling of sheer lacklusterness was all I really walked away from Star Wars Tales of the Empire with. Like with basically every Star Wars show, I was able to recognise that there was a lot of effort put into the show. The animation and the visuals were great, and of course the same goes for the voice acting and sound design. But still, the biggest thing that really felt as if it missed the line was the story. The story felt as if it was just too predictable and too lackluster. It had some interesting ideas, but it didn't really take those ideas anywhere too interesting. Instead, it just felt as if they were playing out those ideas for a typical Star Wars story, which at a time when Andor was being released felt pretty underwhelming and disappointing. And really my theory for what's caused the majority of these issues just has to be the runtime of episodes. Tales of the Underworld and Tales of the Empire both had series where the episodes seemed to run around 20 to 18 minutes. And that is with seasons that contain maybe 2 arcs. And those arcs perhaps have maybe 3 or 4 episodes between them. And this for me is the biggest problem with these series. These Tales series just don't have the time they need to really flush out characters and storylines. These shows come up with plenty of interesting story ideas, but unfortunately they don't have the time they need to actually explore and flesh out those ideas to an enjoyable extent. And really, completing a Tales series for me feels as if I've been given a massive puzzle. Sure, there's a lot of interestingly shaped pieces, but none of those pieces are ever going to connect with one another. And so in the end, I'm not left with a beautifully constructed story. Instead, I'm just left with a bunch of weird and differently shaped pieces. And that's really what watching one of these Tales series feels like to me. And really, going into Maul Shadow Lord, I haven't seen anything that gives me any reason to think that this won't be the same here. Sure, this series could bring up a lot of interesting ideas, but is it really going to have the time it needs to actually flesh out those ideas? Especially when we know already that Maul has to be in a variety of different places across the entire Star Wars timeline. I mean, honestly, who's to say? Again, like the majority of other Star Wars animated shows, Maul Shadow Lord looks really well put together. Really, just from this trailer and the few things released previously, I can see that there has been a lot of effort put into making this show. But I'm just not sure whether or not this trailer and everything else that's building towards this series is actually going to be worthwhile. And really, all of this is just very confusing to me, because I feel as if Star Wars animation has so many different opportunities to actually build and create great stories. But unfortunately, these Tales from series and now Maul Shadow Lord just keep suggesting to me that we won't get to see any of those great opportunities for a while. Largely just due to the fact that with Maul Shadow Lord, Star Wars is telling us that it is more interested in its legacy characters instead of actually creating new characters and new stories. When Darth Maul reappeared in Star Wars The Clone Wars, he was a blank slate. He was essentially a brand new character and the show could do whatever it wanted with him. And really, that's exactly what it did. The show gave us an entirely new character, and it became one of the best characters in the franchise. Darth Maul enjoyed a wealth of characterization, and Lucasfilm in return enjoyed a wealth of storytelling success. And like I said earlier, I do still feel as if the opportunities to tell these sorts of grand story with new characters are still out there, and especially for Lucasfilm and Star Wars animation. Back in the early 2000s and 2010s, I feel as if Star Wars was kept alive by Star Wars animation and, in particular, Star Wars The Clone Wars. And really, I think that the same could be done again today. However, the people at Disney and the people at Lucasfilm just need to put a show together that can really grab people's attention. Star Wars The Clone Wars did that years ago, and it didn't do it solely for the use of old characters and continuing stories. Instead, it found that success through creating new characters and new stories. And really, that's what I was arguing for in my previous Star Wars video as well. I can still see the potential for Star Wars animation as well as Lucasfilm and Disney. But I don't think anyone or any of those series will see any success until Star Wars takes a chance again. Until someone at Lucasfilm or Disney steps forward to bring us new stories and new characters, I don't think that the Star Wars brand will enjoy the same sort of success that it found with Star Wars The Clone Wars anytime soon. And yes, what I'm basically trying to say with this video is just that Maul Shadow Lord does look pretty good. But please, after this show, can we please just let Maul stay dead?